This is the PowerPoint to introduce vocabulary lesson 9 to you guys. We haven't done vocabulary lessons for several weeks, and I just want to remind you guys that for this lesson and all the way till the end, lesson 21, we're going to have 15 words instead of just 10. And don't forget to go back and review previous lessons. As you know by now, each week has a couple of review words from previous lessons. So our first word for lesson 9 is qualm, and check your part of speech. It is actually a noun, and the sentence is Selma had a sudden qualm about racing up all 102 floors of the Empire State Building. As it says here, qualm is a feeling of uneasiness. You're not sure about something. Maybe you're nervous about it. She's probably afraid of heights, and so she's worried about going up to the top of this edifice in New York City. Qualm is usually used in a plural fashion. That's how you'll see it most of the time. Maybe you guys had qualms about your exams in December. Maybe you have qualms, girls, about asking a guy to the Sadie Hawkins dance that's coming up. But whether or not you do or not, just remember that it is a feeling of uneasiness. It's misgivings. You're not sure. The opposite would be ease. If you're at ease with something, you're not nervous or worried. Our next word is granary. If you look at the beginning of the word, you should be able to figure it out. This is a noun as well. It's used in a plural fashion in our sample sentence. Granaries are often built above the ground to keep stored food from mice and other animals. So you should be able to figure out pretty quickly that that is a storehouse for grain. Think grain granary, and you'll be able to remember this one. Our next word is demise. After talking pictures replaced silent films in the early 1930s, actors with unpleasant voices experienced the demise of their movie careers. This is the end of their career because nobody wanted to listen to them anymore with their squeaky voices. If you watch the movie, the old movie Singing in the Rain, that's the focus of that. Demise can be used to actually mean the literal death of something, though. You might say the old man met his demise when he was hit by a car. We also use demise in the context of the end of empires, like the demise of the Roman Empire. Synonyms would be termination or conclusion. Also a noun. Make sure you check your part of speech on that. Next is eradicate. We're finally leaving a group of nouns and going to a verb. The electromagnetic pulse cannon, when deployed, can damage or eradicate computer systems in the targeted area. Damage is your context clue for figuring out what this word means. To wipe out, to destroy. Synonyms would be eliminate. Think about how in our modern era, a big focus of our news is eradicating terrorism in our world, especially after 9/11. You want to eradicate disease. We want to eradicate poverty. We want to get rid of these bad things in our society. We want to eliminate them. The opposite would be to add or create. Next word is bilk, another verb as well. Beware of late night TV con artists trying to bilk you out of money. Bilk means to cheat or swindle, to thwart. A lot of times old people are taken advantage of. Maybe like a widow is living by herself. Her husband has died, and then someone will come to her home and try to convince her that she needs maybe a new roof or certain things done to her house, and she has nobody there to help her out, and so she's taken advantage of. Synonyms would be defraud or con. Next is lampoon. Now I know probably what's coming to your mind is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, because we just came through the Christmas season. Lampoon means to make fun of someone. Now, the definition here is a noun. It can be used either way, as a noun or a verb. The noun definition is a written satire used to ridicule or attack someone. So National Lampoon, what they are doing is they're making fun of American culture. In the Christmas movie, just making fun of all the things that we go through to get lights and trees and the family problems. National Lampoon's first movie, Vacation, about, you know, the American dream of going on this great vacation, and then it ends up being a disappointment because the amusement park is closed. If you watch the show Saturday Night Live, they are constantly lampooning people in popular culture. Typically, it's somebody in politics, especially with the election coming up. You're going to see lampoons of Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, all the candidates that are running for office. So again, we can use it either as a noun or a verb, and synonym would be to parody or caricature, using one of our words that we saw earlier this year. Our next word is emit. The witch emitted a chilling cackle as she stirred the poisonous brew. Focus on that word cackle, which is a sound that a witch would make. Emit is a verb, which means to send out, to give forth, but the focus is on giving forth either some kind of sound like a cackle or light. Synonyms would be to produce, discharge, or release. Think about how excited we were at the end of the Christchurch game this year. The crowd, the SCS crowd at least, emitted cries of joy, and we all flooded down onto the field with excitement because we had finally defeated them. Next word is choleric. We're going to see this word actually in Romeo and Juliet. One little criticism, and the red-faced man became choleric. Red-faced, that description of that man is your clue to what choleric is. Think about somebody who gets angry, who loses their temper, easily angered, and it's an adjective here. Synonyms would be irascible and cantankerous. We're going to see Juliet's father in the play become quite choleric towards the end. There's a character named Tybalt who is often choleric or easily angered. The opposite is apathetic or impassive. If you're impassive to something, it seems like nothing bothers you. Things just kind of brush over you and you're not upset by them. Our next word is aghast. We were aghast when we saw the disrespectful manner in which the teenager treated her parents, probably talking back to them, probably maybe using words that are not nice and obviously disrespectful, as this sentence says. This is an adjective, and she was treating them in such a bad manner that it causes us to feel dismay or horror. Synonyms would be terrified, horrified, shocked. Now you're going to see a word a few slides down which is very similar, the word ghastly, and they're both adjectives, and they both are very similar with their definitions. Let me give you a clue right now with how you're going to use aghast. Look at how the sentence is set up here. Aghast typically, in most cases, is going to come after a linking verb. A linking verb links the subject of the sentence to an adjective which describes it. And so in this sentence, we as our subject, where's the linking verb which links the adjective to we and tells us something about we. I'll come back to that in a minute when we get to the word ghastly in a couple of slides. Next is homily. This is a noun. Spare us the homily on saving money and give us a loan. A homily is a lecture or a sermon. Usually it's a short sermon when people get married and the pastor preaches a message. It's typically not as long as a sermon you would have during a Sunday service, and we call it the wedding homily or the wedding marriage. A few minutes of encouragement to the bride and groom on what they're going to be dealing with in their marriage and encouraging them from God's word. If we think about it in a lecture fashion, you might feel like your parents are always maybe preaching at you with things as far as like doing well in school and working hard and doing well in sports, whatever it is. And sometimes you might get tired of them doing that. You feel like they're always lecturing you. They're giving you a homily on what you need to do to please them. Here's that word ghastly I was referring to with aghast. So let's look at the sentence first. The ghastly smile on the dead man at the end of the movie showed that he had enjoyed the last laugh. So look at ghastly here, how it comes right before the noun it modifies, which in this case is smile. That's your clue, or that's a tip. That tip would be a better word for how to use this word. You want to put it right before the noun it modifies rather than using it after a linking verb like we saw with aghast. Here is our definition. Instead of saying a feeling of horror like we saw with aghast, we're seeing horrible and frightful. Synonym would be dreadful or hideous. I think about Montresor from The Cask of Amontillado, the ghastly smile on his face as he sealed in Fortunato for life. Opposite would be, or for death, I guess I should say. The opposite would be lovely and or attractive. Our next word is impede. Going back to verbs, deciding to sit in the middle of a busy street, the protest group first impeded traffic and then stopped it. If you impede something, you hinder it, you obstruct it. Of course, just think of Woodruff Road and how something is always seems to be impeding traffic on probably the busiest road in Greenville. Delay would be a synonym. Retard would be a synonym. Retard meaning to slow down. The opposite would be to aid or encourage. Maybe another way to use impede would be to use it in this kind of scenario. For example, I might say, because I was sick, it impeded me from getting my work done or from doing my best in the athletic competition. Next word is fabricate. Yet again, another verb here. When her dreams were boring, she fabricated adventurous ones. Fabricate is when you concoct or make up a story in order to deceive. Perfect example of this is Odysseus with the Cyclops. Remember, he fabricates a name. He says, my name is nobody. So that when Polyphemus calls out for the other Cyclopses for help, and he tells them, nobody has deceived me, Odysseus is saved in that manner. Also, he fabricates the story that their ship had been destroyed because he knew Polyphemus would probably go destroy it, and then they would really be stuck. So, making up a story, forging, like if you forge your mom's signature, you're fabricating it. You're pretending to be her as you sign it. Fake would be another synonym. Decadence is our next word. This is a noun. We live in a society filled with decadence because many people believe that there is no absolute standard of right and wrong. The definition of decadence is basically right there in the sentence. Moral deterioration. Things are crumbling. People do whatever they want. They do not adhere to standards of the Bible. Just look at the news, watch TV, go to the movies, and you're going to see it all around you. Look at the newspaper. Unfortunately, this is the society that we live in today. Decay, it's falling apart, it's corrupt. Debauchery. Decency would be the opposite. Narcissistic, our last word for this lesson. This is an adjective. It's all about me, said the narcissistic diva. I'm sure you've heard this word before. It is not a compliment if someone calls you narcissistic. It means you're conceited. You are having excessive self-love. You're obsessed with yourself. You admire yourself. You guys might know people like this. They're very vain. They are very egotistic. I do think, going back to the Odyssey, think of Odysseus, again, back to Polyphemus. When he gets away from Polyphemus, he can't stand the fact that Polyphemus does not know that he has blinded him. And so he yells out, you know, Polyphemus, let it be known that Odysseus, whose home is on Ithaca, Odysseus, raider of cities, I have blinded you. So very narcissistic behavior in that part of the Odyssey. Think about athletes who are constantly just singing their own praises. Humble and modest would be the opposite, and of course that's what we need to be adhering to, that type of behavior as Christians, rather than narcissistic behavior. All right, just a reminder that you need to complete exercise 1 for this lesson tonight. Get those answers on paper like we've done all year, and this time you need to put a pledge at the end. After you finish number 15, please put a pledge that you have watched this video.